Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good evening, good afternoon, good evening. Wherever you're connecting from, the time difference and everything, I want to welcome all our guests. I also want to welcome all the viewers and our guests today. We have a special guest today. Her name is Patience Ogunbona. So before we bring her on board, I'd like to just introduce what the show is all about. We are alive today, and we're grateful to God for life that we're able to see today. Today is another Friday where we discuss money matters. Everything that has to do with money. Money is indeed very important. Money matters that impacts life. That's why it's called Money Matters Life. My name is Sandra Uko. I'm a Maxwell Leadership Certified Team Member, Coach, Speaker, and Trainer. I'm a member of the Toastmaster as the Vice President, Public Relations. It says expert of over 20 years in the IT industry. I'm also a best-selling author, and I also just received the Presidential Lifetime Award, and I'm excited to be here this evening. And in Money Matters, what we do is an empowerment movement where we empower people to understand what is money, financial literacy, financial planning, and financial discipline, where we learn what we need to save, how we need to put our savings to work for us to make more money. We're meant to make, manage, and multiply money. We're meant to do those three ends. So we're meant to be in charge and in control. And we're not meant to work for money. Money is meant to work for us. And aside from that, businesses we can do in the 21st century, investing in life insurance, health insurance, and there's really no rich man today who has no business or products or services that he or she is selling to make money. So you want to find out what the problems are and solve, create a solution in order to. And what is money itself? Money is a legal tender that you use in exchange for products or services. So in wanting to get money, you must have a service, you must have a product, you must have a solution to a problem that you know about, that you're serving for you to make money. And so beyond that, we have to look beyond just working for money. We are not made to work for money. Money is meant to work for us. And that's why we speak about passive income. And today we have the coach who will be taking us on how she started and how God has helped her from the scratch, and what she's doing right now, how she's, what systems she has created for making money. And so we can learn and glean from her. A lot of times it is not about us starting, reinventing the wheel, but learning from others who have been ahead of us. And that's the key thing. It is said that everything rises and falls with leadership. If you have a wrong leader, everything goes wrong. And when you have a right leader, things begin to fall into place. So having the right business and having the right mindsets in managing money and multiplying money, that will help you and turn your situation around. Because we need money. Yes, money is important. But beyond that, we're not meant to live for money. Money is meant to work for us. And so before I read about, I like to just shoot one of the commercials. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome on board. Welcome our viewers. Thank you for being on this show. If this has been your first time of being here, please kindly like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and share with your friends. It is said that a leader is one who knows it and shares it with others. And so we all leaders in a different sphere. Let's share what is impacting us. We're not people who keep information to ourselves, but we spread information, we give to others in order to make our world a better place. So share this video link, and one of the reasons why you need to subscribe is so that when we're online having some nuggets to share, you can be among the first set of people that will get a notification. And I want to just quickly go on to read about Patience Ogunbona is a transformational and business and leadership coach. She's a corporate trainer, keynote speaker, best-selling author, and the member of Maxwell Leadership Team. Patience is the founder of ATI Coaching Consulting and Training Limited. She has over 18 years of experience as an auditor, working in multiple services, consulting, and financial services organizations, such as Deloitte, Saga PLC, ERLs, and Lloyd's Market Syndicate. Patience believes that introversion gives her purpose, alongside her passion for leadership, corporate training, and speaking. She has used her introverted strengths to thrive and stand out in an extroverted world. She inspires other introverted women to overcome self doubt, feel empowered by their introversion, discover their strengths, step out and step up to accompany their goals, lead and thrive. She also works with businesses to create diverse teams where potential is maximized. Leaders are developed so that everyone feels included and empowered to make a difference and lead, thereby achieving performance and profitability goals. Our signature programs are the Align Introverts Method and increase your potential effectiveness and influence. She's designed to help ambitious, highly skilled, multi passionate, driven, and empathetic introverted women create an aligned and authentic business career impactful that achieves impactful presence and positions them as an authority in their marketplace so that they can generate profits. And today I'm excited to have our guest tonight. The next person you get to see is Patience herself. She's going to be telling us more. Hello, hello, hello. So great to have you, ma'am.
Hi,
Welcome
thank
on
you
this
for having
show,
me.
Money Matters Live.
Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you so much. So all over to you. We want to learn from you. And I'm glad to know. When I read your resume, I saw that you've been an auditor, and so you were able to tell us more about money. I want to get empowered and empower people to know how to use money and use money to our beck and call. So our money works for us when we're sleeping.
Yes, and I think for me, one of the things I've started moving away from is just talking about money, but talking more about wealth creation. Because I
Yes,
think
sure.
that when people, they say the love of money is the root of all evil. Yes, but it's interesting that if you think about it in terms of the paper or in terms of the just the bank account, then maybe yes, because some people they're so afraid to live properly even though they have a fat bank account, right? So what we want to focus on in my mind is always what's wealth creation, because for me, I always say that my life purpose is to live and to leave a legacy of wealth for future generations and to help other women to do the same. That is what wakes me up in the morning. That's what keeps drives me. Is that desire, because I know that when you empower a woman, they say you can empower a village because of a woman. So,
Yeah, sure.
so that's so important.
And
Yes.
that's why you find that there is a lot of, not for profits that has to do with empowering girls, empowering women. And that's
Yeah.
why I said there must be a shift also to empowering men and empowering the boys too. Because our girls that we're training are going to marry these guys. So we need
Mm.
to also empower them so that we don't get our girls and our women empowered and the men are having trouble.
I think you're totally right in that sense. I think the only issue is that they say majority rules, right? So in many parts of the world, women's education is still not taken seriously,
True, true.
prevented from actually doing the things that will empower them to actually make the necessary contributions they need to make. But you are very right in the sense that whether it's male, whether it's female, everyone needs that financial education.
Yeah,
Everyone needs that empowerment to know, how do I generate wealth. I always talk about the fact that for some people, you know, coming from a place like Africa, there's a lot of focus on giving charity, and I always say that rather than give us fish, why not give us the rod and teach to fish? That is for me wealth creation. Is
yeah,
different from making you dependent to making you independent. So I'm very much an advocate of teach, give a rod and teach to fish, so that the
sure.
person is empowered to continue to
Rather
generate
than you
wealth.
being a god to that person,
Yeah,
giving all the
yes,
time, the
exactly.
person is empowered to empower others.
Exactly. And to multiply, because we did say that we would talk about multiplication, is actually by giving them, you multiply and they in turn multiply, and the process continues,
I'm
you
sure
know.
you've heard about the multiplying leader.
Mm.
Like John Maxwell, our mentor, will often say that be a multiplying leader rather than being an
Yes.
addition. Ask the people, how can I be of, what can we do together? Rather than you being the one being on top.
Mm,
You're on top, yes, but you're also empowering the people to be in control and be in charge rather than being dependent on you or looking up to you as a god.
mm. Very true. And especially for those of us who are people of faith, we know that when we talk about God, we talk about what is the commission, what is the very first commission of man. It was to be fruitful, to
True.
multiply, and to replenish the earth. So when you think about it, in whatever you put your hands to do, the first thing you have to think about is what's my purpose? And that fruitfulness is creating wealth, creating creating capability for yourself, creating empowerment. Once you've done that and you've produced fruit according to living to your purpose, the next thing is how do you multiply this?
Sure.
Multiplication comes by creating other leaders and helping other people to be fruitful. And then once that fruitfulness happens, and once that multiplication is happening across the world, what happens? The world is replenished. So that
Yeah.
three-stage process of thinking and mindset is so important for anybody as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Great. So we'd like to learn from you. How did you start? What did you go through? What did your business face? Did you feel like throwing in the towel and said, no, I'm not called out to be an entrepreneur. Sometimes we get to that place because you don't get wealthy working for someone.
Mm,
You must also have your own fish. It is not the person who works at the place of work, but the person who initiates, who is the owner of the job that makes the money.
mm,
So aside from doing your 9 to 5, we must also have other businesses that we're growing pari passu as we do our job. You understand? And a lot of people want the 9 to because they're sure of the 9 to 5 job, the money that comes. As an entrepreneur, you're looking up to God for everything. You have to
mm.
pay staff, you have to do a lot of things. How have you gone through this, starting your business in one man and, having more people, more team members join your team? Have you weathered the storm? So we want to learn from you how you multiplied the little one that you have and how you grew.
Mm. So thank you. I mean, from the beginning, like you said, the 9 to 5 is never really enough when you think about it.
Sure.
Your salary is given for you to meet your maybe basic needs, so to speak. And when you think about the hierarchy of need, of need, Maslow's hierarchy of need, that basic, that bottom need, your salary is usually given to you to meet that, right? So you have to be thinking about, okay, beyond that, how do I leave that extra? How do I develop myself further? So for most people, it's always beneficial to actually think about how can this money that I make using my energy, using my effort, really be multiplied in terms of whether it's investments. I've always believed in investments. I've always believed in making sure that I have surplus around for the so-called either rainy day. And for me, a rainy day is defined as the day I really need to live my life and enjoy my life. So it's not necessarily just emergencies. To be able to say I want to go on holiday and not have to be thinking, oh my God, I can't afford that. So when I decided to take the leap of faith to do my business, I didn't just take the leap and just leap in faith and hope that things will work. I started out with a 3-year agenda. You know, myself and my husband said we will make ourselves financially solid over a certain period. And when the time comes to be able to, feel that you can take that leap of faith comfortably, you do that. So I think for me, that was the first thing. I didn't just jump without having maybe some
Plans.
financial backing. I knew that I had made plans. I had considered debts that would stop me. Basically, what would sabotage my dreams of doing the business? It was important for me to lay those foundations. But also, I guess from the beginning, I'm not going to lie and tell you that I got it all right. I ticked all the boxes. One of the tricky things is that when people start, I always say to people these days that there's nothing wrong with thinking small and starting small.
Yeah.
The reason is because when I started, I jumped into all these big conferences where they would tell you that you can just make 0 to 1 million in 5 seconds. And you attend all those things, you get pumped up, you get the only person making those millions is that person that is telling you. Because what he's not telling you is that you have to develop yourself, you have to change from the employee mindset into the entrepreneurial mindset. The employee mindset is that of I'm earning money. The entrepreneur mindset is that of I'm creating, I'm generating, I'm developing wealth. So it's a mindset shift that has to happen for you to be able to feel. And over the years, for me, I had to make that move from actually, okay, are the foundation solid? Because they say if the foundation is uh, not
Faulty.
right, what can a righteous man
Righteous
do?
do.
So that that thing is not even about just righteousness. When you think about it, if a house is completely built to the roof and you find out that the foundation is not solid, that's the most expensive thing to have ever done because you have to fix it. So I'm
Yeah,
going to
sure.
say that I had to learn the hard way that going back to make sure the foundations were solid. So from the get-go, being that my background is also in the finance world, I understand that one needs to develop assets
Yeah.
because it's those assets you use to generate whatever you want to generate, right? So for me, for example, we say that we're coaches, or we're consultants, or we're speakers. Your asset will be the programs that you develop. You also have to think about, is it possible for you to have recurring income or passive income by creating courses? If you're somebody who loves writing like myself, I wrote my very first book the moment I jumped into the entrepreneurship because I felt like the personal mindset shifts that led me to be able to achieve my goals is something that I can capture. So I called it aspiration to transformation, 10 steps to get you from a place of discomfort to your empowerment zone. So that helps people to walk through the process of moving from what I said was the em- uh, employee mindset into that entrepreneurial mindset, where at the end of the book you're looking at the goals that you need to have for you to develop your business. So, well, that's how I started. Uh, and the journey is carrying on where I continue to focus more on how do I develop assets, because the longevity of your business, the longevity of doing whatever you are doing depends on assets and it depends on investments. And it depends on those balancing out against the liabilities that will come from the business.
True. Because if you have liabilities more than you have assets, you have nothing to show for.
Mm,
And if you can't pay up, it will encroach on you such that there'll be no capital to rely on. Your capital is what stays even when you're no longer there. These are things you can give out to your children. Then when we talk about wealth creation, you want to have, he said, a good man leaves a great inheritance, good inheritance for his children's children. So, and
mm,
you want to be that good man, that good woman. So, what inheritance are you leaving? Are you leaving liabilities or are you leaving assets? Are you leaving bills? Are you passing battles to your children or passing baiting? A lot of times parents die with so much debt,
mm,
such that when during their funeral they start doing GoFundMe, which ought not to be so. And that happens a lot in our circle that needs to stop. We need to look beyond that. And that's why I encourage people beyond just doing business. You also need to secure the future of these loved ones you call loved ones. Indeed, if they are loved ones to you, they need to also be catered for. And so that's why we talk about having life insurance,
mm,
having insurance in place, auto insurance, things that should anything happen, should you become handicapped, what how would you take care of these children? How would the education not stop such that they can continue and they're empowered? How would they take care of themselves when you're no longer there? So having the right structure, like you rightly said, we've been called to be fruitful, replenish, helping others to become like us and
mm,
multiply. We're not
mm,
called to keep to ourselves. We're not called to just you know, buy clothes, buy things just to show off. An authentic person lives a life of authenticity. You're not living to please any man. You're not living in a rat race. You're living because that's your basic, and that's the things you need. So that's like you rightly said, having assets rather than having, and your assets will bring money in return, but your
Yeah.
liability will need
Mm.
money to be taken care of. You need to take care of your liability. So
Yeah.
you want to put more in your assets so that you have a money making machine. If you have houses, the rent that comes from it. But if you have liability, you need money to maintain it.
Mm.
So one is a money taking venture, one is a money producing venture. So you
Mm.
might want to weigh the options. Do I want to have a liability or do I want to have an asset, a money making venture for me?
Mm.
You want to say something, ma'am?
Now, I was trying to say that when it comes to what do you leave for your children, I think many of us actually, my own children are growing up and they are fairly grown up, and I wouldn't say that I intentionally went out of my way to teach them finance, but what I did was model how money is used and what difference money can make. So from the get-go, they were able to understand that they could have an account, or they had savings from when they were born, so those savings matured when they became 18, and automatically they became wealthy, so to speak. I'm not saying they had millions in the bank account, but they were able to realize that by putting a little bit away, little by little, that compounds into something great.
Yeah, and the
And
compounding
so,
effect cannot be overemphasized. It is
yes,
very
and so
important.
when they got older and I handed it over to them, they could see the benefit. They can now carry on with that. That in itself is like a living legacy. You're not waiting till you die for them to inherit something. I have given them a practice and a behavior that has to do with empowering yourself for finances. And for my son, who is the older of the two of them, teaching him how to make sure you have a great credit score, teaching him to make sure to understand that you can't continue to pay rent when you buy your house, you have capital, those educational little things, and drumming it into them. That in itself is already an inheritance that you leave. My dad used to say something. My late dad lost my dad in June, and
Oh, sorry then.
yeah, thank you. And he used to say, I don't have houses and money sitting in the bank that you are
But I have
waiting to
investment in
inherit.
my children.
No, no, he said my your education is your inheritance.
Yeah.
And when he used to say that, we used to kind of think, so you're not going to leave anything. Of course, when he died, he left a lot of assets for us and things like that, which is great. But the point there is the education he gave us, he was right, because that education
Set a pace for you.
is definitely what has landed, so that we are not even looking to the assets he left, because it's not about that. We have our own assets, we have our own ways of making the income. When I first started, I started out by saying, giving a man a fish versus teaching him to fish. So when you put your children, or when you put the next generation, whether they are your children or not, because I'm very into youth empowerment as well. I just believe that the young are the custodians of the future that we want to create. So
Yeah.
why not develop them into leaders? Why not empower them? Why not be a role model for the kind of life, the world you want them to have? So basically, being able to say that, you're, instead of giving them the fish, you're teaching them how to fish. So
True.
we're teaching a lot of things around finances, teaching a lot, role modeling it, basically role modeling things like that, and how that comes to help with the things you need, and finding the courage. I think for those of us who, for example, jump from a 9 to 5 into building our businesses, that's also modeling the fact that you have a dream, you can go ahead and pursue that dream beyond just working a 9 to 5. It's also modeling that for them as well.
So that's a great one. Like you
Mm,
rightly said, I also have this notion that an example is what more than an advice,
mm,
in the sense that examples are what people want to see, are the pictures our children see. They don't do what you say, they do what you act. So act what you want them to do. Because kids, when you tell them, don't do this, that is when they will do it. Curiosity kills the cat.
Mm.
So it is what they see you do. So, and that's why I said we are the best teacher. We are modeling the way we want them to live. The teachers in school are not just the teachers they have. We are their first teacher at home. The first things they learn from home. So we need to model the life we want them to live and not just, tell them to read it in a book or tell them to watch it on screen, but living it, having being a living example to them.
Mm.
And that's why it is said that an example is worth two, worth double and an advice.
Mm.
It's intangible. Like my father will always tell you, the money is, you can't say money is intangible. The education and the values you leave in the children are the intangible assets you can give to anyone. Because
Yes.
if they are not taught, if you have billions, they would one day sit down and squander it. They would
Mm.
have nothing to show for it. You have nothing. There will be nothing to say you left a legacy. So
Mm.
that's why they need to be taught. They need to understand it so that they don't focus on fighting on what you left behind, but rather they have theirs. They can also use that as a plus, an addition to
Yeah.
whatever they have.
Yeah.
And I've seen families that the kids are doing very well. And what their parent left, they had to wheel it off to non-for-profits, motherless, they gave it out because they were doing well. So, and that's one major inheritance we can leave for our kids is good values, good education. Because if they have good education and don't have values,
Mm.
whatever what you think you've left behind, in one day they will squander it for you. But if they have
Exactly.
values, they know what it is, which of course cannot be bought by money. Money cannot buy values. Money cannot change a child that is sports who is addicted to something. So it's what can change that child takes God. You can't
Mm.
change a human being you didn't create. The best you can do is pray and go
Yeah.
back to his maker and ask for help. And that you don't want to do at your old age, fighting when you're meant to be enjoying with the family, with the kids doing well. You are now running around looking for prophets and men of God to help you pray,
Mm. Yeah.
So I appreciate that having the right investment in our kids, passing, and that's why I mentioned passing on the baton. You
Mm.
don't want to pass battles. You don't want to leave them to start fighting their battles when you're no longer there. They will cost you when you're not
Mm.
there because
Well,
you've left them with much more trouble than good.
I guess
So
I guess they will have their own battles to fight,
they would
and
know
whether we
everyone will
like it
have
or
battles,
not.
but that some
Yeah.
parents already are in debt.
Mm.
So beyond the debt the children will probably find themselves in, they are also carrying another weight, an extra load, an extra baggage. So you want to leave something for them that they would leave to say, oh, our dad did well, our mom did well. They left something. And that's why even the Bible itself mentioned it and spoke about the importance of a good man. He didn't just say a man would, he said a good man would leave an inheritance for his children's children, not just for this generation, not for our immediate children, but children even that are yet to be born,
Mm.
such that there's a transgenerational wealth, generational wealth, that even after them, other children that comes from them, will continue that wealth. And when you hear about Martin Luther, he did live well, and the family are still running his enterprise. They still,
Mm.
run some kind of leadership of youth. They do some kind of youth empowerment, which of course my son partook in it. They gave out laptops and some things. They have leadership training just to empower these youths,
Mm.
and they're naturally not asking parents to pay for any of this training. So that's the kind of wealth you want to leave and beyond. Be an impactful person, leaving something that would help the generation and the people around, not just you and your immediate family. Yes, life is said to be successful, and I tell people, I say success can be defined in diverse way.
Mm.
Yes, but success to some people is not success to others. Success to me
Exactly.
is living in others, having me replicating myself, empowering others to do better than I am doing right now. So, but some people's success is having a lot of money in their bank accounts. So that's why I say success is a journey. It is
Yes.
said that when you have stopped growing, you start dying.
Indeed.
So I want to ask, what was your biggest challenge when you started your business?
Like any other person, I think your biggest challenge, my biggest challenge was me. My
Was you?
biggest challenge was my mindset. My biggest challenge is still me. Um, and when I say me, I'm not talking about just the fact that maybe I don't always think uh, I can do something, or maybe self doubt holds me back. I'm talking about the growth process. So when you start in any journey, you have to perhaps unlearn the old ways of thinking, because now you have to think differently, you have to do differently, you have to move in a different circle. So for me, it was more of, what are the things I have learned and what are the things I need to unlearn. Then you get to a certain stage as well, and you realize that at the start you probably also learned things that are not serving you right now, you know, on the
Sure.
next phase of the journey. Because obviously you start off the phase of seeding the business, then you have the startup phase, and then you move from the startup phase to the growth phase. And unfortunately, it's like a child has to grow up from drinking milk to eating solid food, right? So where you get, so you have to adapt, you have to change. So for me, those were the things that I had to learn to become an entrepreneur. I had to learn to think in terms of money. I had to learn, how do I generate money? How do I manage money? How do I make sure that I have my productivity right to be able to deliver? Because the truth about it is, you, when you start in the entrepreneurial journey, you very quickly realize that you begin to almost work in your business,
Yeah.
and your journey needs to lead you to work on your business rather than in your business.
Yeah.
So, but that's a journey, it's a process. I would say that the reason why my uh, I said that the challenge was me. One of the things is I had to learn to be more patient. I had to grow into my leadership capabilities. So I had to decide, obviously, on being more focused and finishing things, and rather than going after the shiny object syndrome,
Yeah.
all those kind of things. And also, being, as you well have introduced me and talk about introversion giving me purpose. When I worked in the corporate space, I realized, okay, I'm an introvert. I adapted. It took me a while for it to click that actually you are still an introvert. So so how are you going to click in the
Mm.
entrepreneurial journey? It's different from the corporate space. So how are you
Sure.
going to click? How are you going to do it differently? So that also, with that realization, I was able to bring my lived experience from the corporate space as an introvert into the business space, and then list down to say other women need to make this realization that actually it's two different environments, two different kind of skills that you need. um, it's so much easier, in a sense, to a certain degree, to network in the corporate space, because when you go there, you're not necessarily trying to sell yourself. You're really trying to. It's easier. You're connecting and things like
Sure.
that. But in the entrepreneurial space, you are always trying to sell yourself, almost like that.
Yeah.
But you can make the shift to connecting before before selling. That's something you've got to learn. That's something you've got to adapt to. So those are some of the things. I mean, on my journey, the challenges I faced were learning how to prioritize what's important. Uh, Learning that if I didn't focus on the money making stuff, I focused on all the distractions and other tasks that are not money making, my business will not survive. So basically, those are some of the things I had to learn.
Sure. Thank you so much. And that's what there are three learnings that we have to do. We have
Mm,
to unlearn some of these things that
mm,
will not make us, grow. We have to also, learn new things. And we
mm,
also have to relearn some of the things we learned that, some of them are updated. We have to live with this, you want to be at par. They
mm,
said if your business is not online, you'll be left behind. So
mm.
you want to learn some new things that is common with this generation that is, rampant, that is in
Oh, I lost you there.
Hello? Oh,
Oh,
good.
hi.
We're
we
back.
we
Somebody
lost a
called. I
bit.
think I had a call. So that interrupted the internet. Yes, sorry, we're back. So there are things we need to learn, the things we need to unlearn, and the things we need to relearn. And like you rightly said, your mindset is key. There are
Mm,
two types of mindset. You want to just be focused on the right mindset. We have the growth mindset and we have the fixed mindset. A fixed mindset that you see obstacles as hindrance. You see challenges as, oh my God, I can't move to the next stage. This is not for me. And you want to throw in the towel rather than you saying, okay, I'm ready to grow. I'm ready to stretch myself. It is said that what doesn't stretch you doesn't grow you. And I read this John Maxwell book, The 15 Invaluable Laws, where it talks about the law of rubber band. The
one
rubber
of my
band
best,
is
one of my
not
best laws.
useful. This is
Mm,
it. That's like a rubber that expands. He said the rubber band becomes useful when it's expanded because if you put something in and it's not having a grip, it is not useful. But when it has a grip on you, it becomes very useful. And that's why what doesn't stretch you doesn't take you to where God wants you to be, doesn't take you to your destiny, to the your purpose.
mm,
So we must stretch ourselves. We cannot remain in our comfort zone. I know that we're looking for places of least resistance where everything is just working. Yes, there would be, and you have to, go through it. And that's why I said those things will come, but what you do at those moments really matters. And that's why the choices we make in life make us or they mar us. You either allow your choices you make. And it is said that what we are today is the sum total of the choices we've made in the last 20, 30, 40 years of our life. So
mm.
whatever we are, ask yourself if what you're doing right now is not right, then ask yourself, what are the choices you're making? What are the choices? What correction can you make now? Maybe you have to, go back and make the right choice. So
Indeed.
in life,
Mm,
we must go through some pain.
mm,
But sincerely, it is said that your setback can be your setup for success. So everything is working together for our good. That's what the Bible says. And so when we go through difficult moments, sometimes we think, oh, this thing is breaking me. This cannot be from God. No. What we need to have a very good disposition. Like, God, what is it that you want me to learn? Because it's always a learning curve. Like John Maxwell will rightly say, celebrate your failures. Because there's always something for you to learn when you fail. He said, because if you take success and allow success to get into you, you'll be prideful and there'll be nothing for you to learn because there's always a learning curve in every situation. So, and you find and I have noticed that when Nigeria go for all these soccer play, when they go to play with other countries, when we start winning, watch it. Towards the end, we either just lose it. But when we start wrongly,
mm. Complacency, yeah, right?
yes, but when
Yeah.
we start wrongly, we go back to our drawing board. As in, what is it I didn't do right? What do I need to put together? And you find out that when they come back on field for second half, oh my God, you be like, is this the same guys that played the first half that are coming back? They are hungry for success because they
Yes.
know they have just a second half to prove their worth. And so that's how life is about. When we go through difficult moments, they are meant to bring out the best in us. And we must have a right responses to the situation. It is said it is not about what people do to you, but your response to what they do that really matter. Do
Indeed. Mm,
you understand? So understanding that your response is key. Understanding that you have to have a growth mindset. The understanding that when you go through pain, it's not a punishment from God. God is preparing you for where He's taking you to. And that's why I use the example of Esther and Mordecai. I use Joseph. If Joseph did not go through what he went through, Joseph would have been a talkative till Jesus comes. Because he wasn't able to manage the dreams he had. So that was why his brothers, thank God they didn't kill him. They would have cut off that dream. But he went through those processes as a wilderness experience to prepare him for the palace he was going to. And so for Potiphar to have trusted his wealth, his enterprise, his kingdom to him, he has gone through that school of learning. He has learned.
mm.
So I want to encourage you. You might be having a tough time going through difficult moments in your business, but we must have a right response, right disposition. What is it that God wants me to learn? Because it is said even when you go to school, when you don't pass a particular course, no lecturer will promote you. No doctor will pass a medical student except you want to bring out a casualty as a doctor and it begins to kill people in the world. So you must go through those process, learn, pass those grades, and move to the next level. So learning what we need to learn so that we can move on. So I have
Mhm.
learned that I do not need to complain or murmur because even it is said that God hates murmurers and complainers. So what I try to do is, God, give me the grace to go through this. And what do you want me to learn at this moment? What is that skill? Or what is that, lifestyle that you want to, cut off from me? Because sometimes we go through pruning. Pruning is painful. It's like when when pruning with the big scissors, these are
Yeah,
horticulturists,
well,
when they are
well, I
cutting
think,
the flowers, it's a painful moment. It's like
uh,
you're cutting
yeah,
areas that are wide, that are grown widely. You want them to form a shape, and it's always a painful process. So that is what our failure does to us. Sometimes someone will go through our process that we should
I
allow.
think,
And you want to say something, ma'am?
yes, I was going to say that failure, yeah, teaches you to find humility.
Yes, humbling
Um,
process. It's an humbling process.
failure is, as some people say, failure is first attempt at learning. And it's always useful to remember that one man's failure is another man's progress. So it's kind of asking yourself, when you it's nice to define failure, it's nice to also define success,
Yeah.
because I just created a journal recently. I want to share that. This is the journal I created. It's called Win Your Day in 15 Minutes or Less for Introverted Female Entrepreneurs.
Wow.
And the reason why I created this journal is because I realized that people tend to discount the progress that they make on a daily basis. And sometimes when your journey is long, because for most of us, we start out entrepreneurship, and like you rightfully said, and we've been quoting John Maxwell a lot. He said that if you think that it will be easy, then it's hard, but if you think that it's hard, then it's easier in a sense. So sometimes it's like, okay, if it's taking too long to achieve the goals you want to achieve or to get to the destination you want to get to, what is it that is that you can actually see? What is that tangible thing that you can hold on to and be able to celebrate? So basically, uh looking at every day that progress that you make, that maybe one thing, one needle that you moved on the dial to get to that next step, the baby steps that you take, being able to document them or being able to acknowledge them will help you not to overly focus on failure or on what hasn't gone right. Of course, it's not easy. That's why you need to have a process. That for me was why I created the journal, because I thought to myself, a lot of people, by journaling and really being able to acknowledge the daily efforts that they're making, it keeps you going. It keeps you celebrating yourself. And when you are celebrating yourself, what happens? You keep moving forward. You keep
Yeah.
propelling yourself forward. Yeah, so that was what made me think about, how do I provide a tool for people to self coach themselves so that on a daily basis they can focus on what matters most. And what matters most is that we've been talking a lot and we've been bringing a lot of faith things. And it says, in everything give thanks, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus concerning you. It's
Yeah.
not for everything, but in everything. So that attitude of gratitude, I did a post today where I said, gratitude attitude raises your altitude. So that, because when you are being grateful, when you are being
It
thankful,
takes you up.
you multiply. Actually, we've been talking a lot about multiplication. So when you are being thankful, when you're being grateful, you actually multiply your ability to see more of things to be thankful for. You actually multiply that which you are even being thankful for. Like like where we were growing up, and they would say, pray and bless your food before you eat. And one of the prayers would be like, for that which we are about to receive, for we are eternally grateful. We will say that kind of prayer. And when that happens, that also means that you continue to you know believe that you will continue to eat more and more food because you're being thankful for what you already have. Uh, and From a business perspective as well, I found that sometimes when you are focused on that bird in hand, that's client that you have, and really being thankful for them, also focusing on delivering excellence for them, uh, they can be what will create the fruitfulness for you in your business. Some people kind of have that situation where you have your clients and you're not focusing on how to progress progress them or work on them. A bird in hand, they say, is worth two in the bush,
In
right?
markets, yeah.
So those are some of the key kind of mindset shifts when it comes to failure, when it comes to how do you handle success. um, for me personally, working with a lot of introverted women, I noticed that one of the challenges is being able to actually celebrate yourself and say, yes, I'm great. Yes, I'm good at this. Yes, I am excellent. Yes, I stand out. Yes, I shine. Being able to say that. And when you don't do that and you focus more on the failure, you feel more weighed down. But when you focus on celebrating, you feel more uplifted. So uh, I try to spread the message of how do you form a daily habit, and continuous habit of celebrating your wins.
Yes, like you rightly said, those little progress motivates you. And
Mm,
that's why it is said that motivation keeps you going. When you give yourself some reward, you give yourself reward. It does keep you going. It does keep you happy seeing some kind of worth from yourself that, oh, I'm doing well, I'm improving, I'm getting there. Rightly, rather than not, celebrating. That's why I said we need to learn to be grateful. In being thankful and being grateful, this increases us, it increases our altitude in life. It says, show me a man who is grateful, then I'll show you a man who will go far in life.
mm,
Not having this ownership mentality, but having a mentality that, oh, I am grateful for everything I have. And it is said that, is there anything you have that was not given to you? We have received everything we have by the help of God. So, in thanking God, we are actually opening more room for more blessings.
mm,
You're increasing your taking capacity. You're more having more rather than you being ungrateful. We have people who say, "Oh, I'm not doing a lot," and so and there is really nothing for me to celebrate about life. But I want to encourage you: living is one thing to be grateful for. When you see what others are suffering in the hospitals and the rest, you will tend to say, "Oh my God, being alive is a great asset."
mm,
Because if you're not living, if you're not with the right mentality, you'll find that people are alive. Some cannot even talk the way we're talking. Some cannot
mm,
even engage in any business. So I think we should learn to give thanks for those little things. And there's a song I learned talking about the many million miracles, small million miracles, things we take note of, the little things we do not take note of. Breathing. I also, I appreciated breathing. My husband, when he had COVID and he was in ICU and they had to give him oxygen. And they were, when he was leaving, one being discharged, they wanted to give him oxygen home. And when you see how much people pay for oxygen, then you tend to be grateful to God that those little things that we say they are negligible, they're actually to be thankful for. As in,
yes.
thank God for those little things. Then the bigger ones that you're trusting God for will surely fall in your lap easily. And you'll be surprised. How did this come to be? Because you have the right attitude.
And I think you're right because I was thinking that we tend to think in terms of our capacity. And there is a lady that I follow, and she was saying, God is not looking at your bank account, He's looking at your faith. That's the currency with which He's
With
looking.
which we deal
And
in
He's not
heaven
looking
is
at
faith,
your
not money.
bank account, but your faith. And, so when you think about it in that sense, being grateful for what you have is kind of like faith, believing that more is to come, more is better, is even to come as a result, and living in the present. Today, I'm thankful. And what I'm finding is that when you learn those behaviors, it's kind of like I've had a week of where I'm like almost like yeses here and there, almost like the harvest has come kind of thing.
And
you
you
know
have a lot to
almost
gather.
yeah, you have a lot to gather because you've sown a lot of seeds. It's But you don't realize that you've sown those seeds. That's the thing.
It's sure.
When you're sowing them, it's more like, okay, yeah, I'm just struggling here. I'm not getting results. But you keep going, you keep sowing seeds. And then suddenly the harvest kind of like, you're thinking, wow, here is the yes, here is the congratulations, here is the, it almost feels
Very
like,
true.
oh, it's easier now. But it was only easier because you kept watering that seed.
And you
You
kept
kept
doing what
watering
you need
that
to do.
seed. You kept doing what you needed to do. So ultimately as well, by continuing to do what you needed to do, you were increasing your capacity to be more. You know, Paul Martinelli always says, the Spirit of God within us seeks bigger expression, speaks higher expression. So we're constantly evolving to be the better versions of ourselves because that's the expression of what God wants. I always say that God is not he's a very shrewd businessman where he wants to make return on investment. So when he puts a purpose in you, he puts a dream in you, he's not going to sabotage you from achieving it because he
Not at
wants
all.
return on investment.
No.
He's a shrewd entrepreneur, a shrewd businessman. So basically, he wants us to be, do, and have more. The scripture that says that, beloved, I wish that you prosper even as your soul prospers. And all good and perfect gifts come from God. Of
Yes.
course, that doesn't mean that life is easy. That doesn't mean that things will fall on your lap, but you follow the process of harvest time, seed time, and harvest time will never cease as long
Sure.
as the world exists. So there is a time to sow seeds and there is a time for harvest. In between is the waiting game. In between is the believing. Between is the development of your character. You mentioned Joseph. When I first started talking about, I used to run a workshop, which I'm bringing back by the grace of God, called Build Your Dream Workshops. And in those workshops, I would tell the story. In some of them, I would tell the story of Joseph the dreamer, like what you rightfully said. So Joseph obviously started out as a dreamer, but where he was headed was not as a dreamer, but as a dream interpreter. That is what he would use to profit his life. Just dreaming. And he started off with a bit of ego, not knowing where his strength and his
Yes.
capability came from. In the end, when he stood in front of Pharaoh, what did he say? He had no ego. He said, God will surely interpret this dream for you. He found humility in the years of development. So even though he was getting leadership positions, his ego was no longer in standing as a tripwire. He was able to learn the skills that actually elevated him and shrunk 12 years into one moment. 12 years became one moment. And sometimes one of the things I always say is that we pray for deliverance and we will be praying for what we're praying for. So he was praying to be free of of maybe prison and find freedom, maybe go back. But imagine if that was answered compared to being second in command to Pharaoh, right? Which
Yes,
one
true.
is more elevating? The other thing is, if God had shown him, some of us go and look for this crystal ball to say, oh, we want to know what our future is like. If God had said to him, Joseph, by the way, that dream you had, let's talk about it. You'll be thrown into this, you will leave your father. He will say, no, I'm not doing that.
The
If
dream would have been aborted.
Yeah, it would be like, that's not worth it. Why can't I? But I always tell people that that dream contained a lot of information. For example, he dreamt that the moon and the stars were bowing down to him. And here's the thing, in the land of Israel, nobody believed in looking at moon and stars. But in Egypt, people studied the moons and stars, and it's one of the things. So even within that dream, God was actually saying, your dream does not exist here. But obviously, at that time, he was a dreamer, not an interpreter. I'm sure when he stood in front of Pharaoh, his eyes cleared and he could see exactly what his own dream even meant standing there,
True.
because he was now standing before diviners and priests that believed in moons and stars, and these people were now sent by Pharaoh to be killed, and he would be put in the place to be the second in command. So that was the interpretation. But if he was given that information at the time of his dream, he would have said, "Let
I
I
don't
want
want
another.
it.
I want another dream. I
I
want
want a shortcut,
another
something
dream.
to cut
I
those
want
painful
You
moments.
mean 12 years? You mean I will be no? You mean I'll leave my father that gave me? No, no, no." So for most of us, that not getting the answers, I always say to people, my name might be patient, but I'm not always patient. Being called patient can be a burden because it doesn't mean
True.
I'm always patient.
True.
People expect me to always be patient, but I've
You,
seen that in my life.
you
I've
have
had
to
to
ask your name.
learn patience myself, and in so doing, I have found that the things that I used to miss, when I slow down, I can hear wisdom, I can hear guidance, I can hear direction, I can see the things that we all miss because we are in a hurry in this day
Yeah,
and
we're in
age.
a fast
Oh,
moving world.
AI makes it faster. Yes, it does. But do you enjoy writing? So let it aid you to write and to write from the heart. AI has no heart, right? So
No,
so it cannot translate a
it can be
heartfelt
empathetic.
a heartfelt uh piece of writing for people, but people would rather have that shortcut. Ultimately, what happens is you never develop the gift of writing, which, if you had the gift of storytelling, if you have the gift of writing, are you not better off really nurturing that gift? What will a shortcut do for you? John Maxwell again says, there are no shortcuts to anywhere worth going.
There are none.
So if the
Yes, we can
place
have
is worth
shortcuts on the
going,
computer. There are
yeah,
no shortcuts in life.
and even if there is, like Joyce Meyer, I don't know if you know Joyce Meyer, she
I
says
do.
there
The
is no
woman preaching.
drive-through breakthrough. Life is not about McDonald's. There is, she says life is not about McDonald's. There is no drive-through breakthrough, and a happy meal only lasts that moment you are eating it. It
Oh
doesn't
my
it
God.
doesn't deliver happiness over your lifetime, even though it's called a happy meal. In fact, for many parents, a happy meal is a disaster because your child will be passing McDonald's and will reduce you to having to buy happy meal to keep them happy. But for you, it's creating sadness. So in all those things, we look at the dilemmas of life and understand that just because things are hard doesn't mean they will be impossible. So one of my mottos is my motto is, impossible is an opinion. Feel free to disagree and decide by yourself to carve out your own success pathway to achieve what you want to achieve. So that's, yeah.
Yeah, and there is also the saying that says when you fail or make mistake is another way of doing things.
Hmm.
Yes, because you did it this way does not mean that I should not try the other way. And sometimes in trying the other way, you come up with a better strategy. So
Indeed.
just a moment, I want to check if there are comments and questions. So I'm going to be shooting a commercial.
Are you thinking of how to publish your book on Amazon or how to get your published book to become an Amazon bestseller book? Dip Insight Books is the perfect in-between solution in transforming your ideas into a book. We can help you with all the complicated parts of publishing, such as process TO transformation. What we do: full manuscript evaluation, receive quality assurance edit, full copy edit and final proofread to remove spelling and grammar mistakes, oversee your cover design, create your interior layout, publish and distribute your book, lock down your marketing strategy. Ghostwriting, where there is no manuscript. Our goal is to help you publish your book promptly. Contact us today at 404-740-9091. Email us at info@dipinsightworld.com. To start the submission process, check us out at www.books.dipinsightworld.com and submit your details. You can visit our Facebook page at Dip Insight World.
So welcome back. I'm just looking at some of the comments. Deborah says, I agree. The example you said, an example is worth twice as much as it's not what you leave to them. It's worth you to live in them. You know what? Not what you leave for your family, but what you leave in them, the intangible asset that you leave in your children. And it says, I like what you just said about unlearn, learn new things. We need a flexible mindset. She also says, thank you for pointing that out. I do not celebrate my small wins, and I should be doing that. So she learned some new things, and she's going to start celebrating her small wins. And
Great.
like I
Great.
said, those little progress motivate you to doing more and great things. Before we call it a day, do you have anything you want to say before we wrap up and have a very restful weekend? Did you have anything you want to say?
Well, I want to say that we can move from talking a lot about money mindset into wealth mindset. And
Yeah.
wealth for me is all encompassing. It's not just money. You talk about how does your money work for you to give you the life that you desire, and
Yeah.
is it creating happiness? A wealthy person, they say that a person who has people is wealthy.
Sure.
Because so and that obviously means that the person who has love in their life is wealthy. So when you think about wealth, think about the other elements. Is it health? Well, health is wealth. Is it love? Without love, most people don't feel that they can exist. And is it the finances? That's also important, because some people say that they say, if you think that money can't buy happiness, then you've never been hungry before. If you're hungry and you have money and that money buys you food, suddenly you become happy, right?
It's but
So,
only for a moment.
so yeah, but what it means is that there is a difference between happiness, immediate gratification, and joy. Joy is something you cannot buy. So that's
Yes,
also
comes
the
it wells out from your inside.
fruit of the spirit. And that is why you can be happy for the moment. You can have all the jets in the world, you can have all the physical diamonds. That does not mean that you feel loved. It does not mean that it will keep you alive and healthy regardless. It might shorten the distance. Doesn't mean all that is not in your power. So what is in your power is to continue to create wealth. And wealth is many, many things. Define what wealth means and go after that instead of just money. So that's what I want to say.
Thank you so much. Yes, even in creating wealth, there's what you call the financial literacy.
Mm,
Learn how you can make your money work for you. There's also what you call financial discipline. Like you rightly said, delay gratification for future enjoyment. There are some
mm,
things that, will not kill you, but you need to wait to when you have much more to do. And
mm,
beyond that, you have what is called being able to multiply that money. What
mm,
investment vehicle? How can you multiply that wealth you want to create and you want to leave? So
mm.
financial literacy, financial planning, and financial discipline. And to go, do have a rest weekend. I want to thank our viewers who have been on this show. Thank you for being there. Thank you for supporting us. And thank you for sharing this link to others by being a blessing to others. It is said that a leader is an influence. A leader is one who knows it and shares it with others. We do not know it and keep it to ourselves, but rather we share with others. So I want to thank Patience. I also want to thank our
Thank
viewers.
you.
Thank you so much, Ma, for making our time out of your tight schedule.
Thank you
And
very
till we meet
much.
on our next episode, do have a restful weekend. Bye, everyone.
God bless.